If you've seen the movie Braveheart, just the title is enough to evoke images of bravery and battle. One of its underlying lessons: some things are worth living for, even worth dying for. Well, welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Thanks for joining me on the top spot on the internet for Coffee with a Cleric. You know, my goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, then let me invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Hey, today's devotional's not a movie review, but a testimony to the ability of God to deliver superhuman strength to his faithful followers, even as they face death. It's going to have a bit more historical detail than most of the things we discuss each morning, but I think it'll be worth your focused attention. So grab a cup, buckle up, and let's talk about a faith worth living for, even worth dying for. You know, I've stood on the hill in Jerusalem where Stephen, the first martyr, was stoned to death. His voice was heard clearly by those who took his life, and the last words of this man of God were preserved in the Bible for our consideration. It reports that while they were stoning him, Stephen prayed, "Lord Jesus, receive my spirit." Now, he had already seen the heavens opened, the glorious throne of God, and Jesus standing at the right hand of God. You know, this is the only verse in the Bible that describes Jesus as standing at the throne. Every other verse describes him as being seated there. I find it significant that the Lord himself chose to stand at this moment. Kind of a standing ovation to Stephen's final act of faith. Well, as the stones being hurled upon him did their inevitable work, Stephen's flesh and his physical heart began to fail him. But before they did, he fell on his knees and he cried out, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." Those were the last words Stephen ever spoke. Even as he was being murdered by a frenzied mob, he prayed for their forgiveness. This then is a prime example of God being the strength of Stephen's heart and his portion forever. Make no mistake, Stephen was the victor. But Stephen's story is not unique, not by any means. Luke tells us that on the day that Stephen was executed, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem. Fox's Book of Martyrs tells us that about 2,000 Christians suffered martyrdom during the persecution that arose about Stephen. Sometime later in 44 AD, James the Apostle, and the elder brother of John the Apostle, was falsely accused under a plan devised by King Herod. Now, by the way, this was Herod Agrippa, is the son of the man who was the king when Jesus was born. Well, an eyewitness report has been preserved for us in some historical writings of that day. As James was being led to the place of his martyrdom, his accuser repented publicly of his false accusations. Pushing through the crowd, this man fell on his knees before James and begged him to forgive him. After James forgave his accuser, the man professed that he had become a Christian. Well, at Herod's order, they were both beheaded with swords at the same time. Flesh failing, but hearts brave and strong, they entered heaven. Because for those who love him, God is the strength of their heart and their portion forever. Well, I could quite literally go on and on and on and on. Whether it's the classic Fox's Book of Martyrs, The more recent Jesus freaks, stories of those who stood for Jesus, or any of many other compilations of tales of Christian martyrdom, we've got stories of men and women throughout the ages who've chosen to hold onto their faith while letting go of their life. Some, like Hearts of Fire, 8 women in the underground church, tell their stories of costly faith. Focus on a single nation. Others, such as Bonhoeffer, pastor, martyr, prophet, spy, tell the story of a single person. All recount flesh failing, but hearts brave and strong. Friend, this is a faith worth having. This is a faith worth living and dying for. So what about you? Do you have a faith that's a central focus of your life? Does it impact your decisions? I want to tell you, if your faith hasn't changed your life, it's probably time to change your faith. Isn't it time to put your faith in someone worth living for? I want to tell you, my prayer is that I could be a strong witness, that I would exhibit a brave heart when facing assaults against my faith or against my life. May I be able to say with a loud voice, my flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. Well, we're at the end of our time today, but I still want to ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. Would you please like this video? It really does help more people see it. And click follow or subscribe so you and I can get together every day. Click that notification button, because lots of folks have been saying they're not seeing this daily devotional, but I'm sending it out every day. Also, one more thing. Share it with a friend, would you? Because as you do, well, you're part of the team, touching hearts all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thanks for helping.